Alright, so what we want to do at this point is we want to just sort of recheck our shape. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to increase my fill mode to 3 so we can kind of see through it. Let's play with our opacity a little bit. Okay, we started to block out just generic shapes here. So I'm just going to grab my move tool and really start to just kind of round this off a little better. So I'm holding Alt here, and again I'm just inflating the area. Alt and move kind of does like a uniform inflate. Let's look at it from the top view. And the head itself is flatter on the sides. So you don't want to create a perfect ball, but you also don't want it to be dipped in. Alright, so at this point I'm going to check my distances from here too. You can see that my eye socket is set way back, and the way you can determine that is if you look at the red laser going to the right. I'm actually at the corner of my eye socket. Here, let's see if we can play with this a little bit better. There we go. You can see if I'm at the very corner, it actually goes way back into his head when it should be lined up here. Where's my opacity? There we go. You can see that a little bit better now. So what I'm going to do is just grab my move tool and scale it to about the size of the eye. And I'm just going to pull this forward and keep pulling it forward until I know that I've got my my eye socket where it needs to be. So this needs to be pushed in and this needs to be pulled out. Same thing here. I'm going to pull this forward. Excuse me. Pull this forward. I'm going to go to my front view. Do the same. Kind of pull this out a little bit. Pull this down here out a little bit. Holding shift to smooth that out. And then again inflate this. Down. Pull this down a little bit. So it's looking good. Same thing with the teeth. Now we can just kind of have fun. I mean, you can get very meticulous with this. So for example, if I grab my clay tool and I just grab clay buildup, I can go in at an angle now and hit Control D to divide this a couple more times, just for clarity's purposes. I really don't necessarily jump this high right away. I work in smaller subdivisions. But you can see as I have my cursor here, I can see, okay, that's the nose. And if you gauge from the red laser will kind of help you with the height. So I can kind of throw in a line this way, check that. Down here too. And again, I can just check the shape by looking at that red laser. I can see that this needs to come down here. It's roughly that width. Bring this up like this. You know, and you want to be careful because you can using this method get pretty exact. I mean, like you're pretty much tracing, but it robs your model of a lot of the life behind you know, which is your own artistry. And the other part of it too is if you're constantly tracing, you're not really training your eye for spatial relationships, for being able to gauge spatial relationships. So you can see here I kind of move that in. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm actually just going to drop this down to 2. And I'm going to just do some very basic sculpting, you can see here. And I'm going to wing it. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I want to enjoy working on this model and not just sit there and trace. Okay? So I'm going to grab my move tool, move this area out a little bit more. Again, I'm not looking at my reference at this point. I'm just having fun with sculpting this, you know. And so I'm going to do things like again, build up a little bit more clay on the nostril area here. Hold Alt, carve that in a little bit better, smooth it, build out this area a little bit more. And you know, you can work back and forth between your reference, but you know, look at your reference and then draw it out, you know, and just say, okay, well, there's a little dip here, so instead of like instead of studying your reference verbatim, you can actually just go in and kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna gauge this. You know, I know that this goes all the way back here, so I'm gonna add a little clay there. You know, I know he's got teeth here, so I'm going to gauge that too. Now another thing I like to do is I begin to block everything out. So So what I mean by that is, for example, I want to work on the gum, this bone gum line and the teeth. So with that same clay buildup tool, what I'll do is I'll just draw a line that goes from there to there, and then the line for the teeth, another line for the teeth, and then the line for the gum line. So there's 4 lines there. And I'll look at it, and I'll look at the distance here, and I'll be like, okay, you know, this needs to be dipped in a little bit more, and I'm going to smooth that out. Needs to be some more on the chin. Okay. Needs to be a little bit more down here. Check that from the side. Again, I'm just having fun here. I'm not going too crazy with checking my reference. Okay. Alright, now I can go in this way. Again, I'm carving away by holding Alt. Carving down. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just smooth out those 4 lumps so that I've got that surface area there. Let's go ahead and carve this too. Alright, and then I'll just go in and one by one. Let me divide this one more time. And don't worry too much. I mean, like I said, at first you kind of want to go in and work a little bit lower. But we're actually going to retopologize this in ZBrush. And then bring it into Maya, unwrap it. Alright, let's line that up a little bit. Get the rest of these teeth. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop a little lump of clay on top of each tooth here. And let's do the same for the bottom choppers. Alright. And same thing here, you can see that they kind of curve up and then they dip back into the skull, so they actually fall in. So I'm just going to hold Alt and drag that in, and then just add a little bit of clay on the bottom of each one. Smooth that out, smooth these out too. Again, I'm going to divide it one more time, and then so you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to divide that one more time, and then you'll be able to looks like this little piece here. I'm going to hold Alt and flatten that out a little. Kind of overlaps it from the side. Alright, so let's go ahead and divide it one more time. So we're at really high geometry at this point. And this is where we're going to do all of our detailing. So what I'm doing here to kind of explain is I'll draw out the tooth and then I'll only smooth the middle. Now, I over-exaggerate everything in ZBrush because I can always tone it down at the normal map stage, because again, everything in here I'm doing to generate a normal map from. So same thing here, and I only smooth out the top, so because I want that hard edge at the bottom. Alright, let's make sure this guy's in there. I'm gonna drop a little clay, making a little T here. Alright, so at this point, again, I would go in, excuse me, I'd go in, start to shape, again, add more clay, only leave in the hard edges where I need them, for example, a little bit in there. And I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. And I'm going to let you practice just sort of working on your skull, because that's enough to kind of get you started, to add in the details and to really work it. In the next video, what we're going to do is I'm going to open up a brand new skull, and you're going to be able to see how far I got with it. And we're going to remesh it. We're going to unwrap it in Maya, and then we're going to start to texture it.